a Wildcat anymore. He's moved on. He had an outstanding season. It's Brady Perhovic, who's a good one. He's back up at Wetzel on first down. Is going to load up and throw down the middle of the field. Jaton Williams has it. And Jaton Williams with a touchdown. And there you go. First play of the game.
Live from our Seton Hill University studios, this is Westmoreland on the Gridiron on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Here's your host, Sean Meyers.
We welcome you into Westmoreland on the Gridiron for the first time here in 2023. Westmoreland Sports Network each and every Wednesday at 7 p.m. I'm Sean Meyers, joined by Dan Flickinger. And before we get into a litany of topics that we've got to get to for Week 0, Flick, and an action-packed show that includes some interviews with Nick Keefer, the first-year head coach of Hempfield area, Da'sjon Craggette, the outstanding running back now at Southmoreland. Might have recognized that name. He was at Greensburg Central Catholic a year ago. A great debut for the Scotties. We're going to hear from both of them in this show. We're also going to look ahead at Week 1 and recap Week 0. But Week 0, I think the biggest thing is for the first time since November, we were back covering high school football, and it feels like everything's right in the world on Friday nights when you're back on the grid. I don't know, you producing, myself broadcasting, but for everyone, fans, broadcasters, and certainly players and coaches, always an exciting night to kick off the season.
Yeah, I know it's a cliche thing to say that there's that little feeling in the air. We always say it, but it is 100% true. You know, it's about the game, certainly, but in the bigger picture, it's about the band, the cheerleaders, the communities, the fans, the smelling the popcorn, the hamburgers cooking, at the concession stand, all of those things wrapped into one. It's just the atmosphere around every single game last Friday. It was so cool, and you just can't beat it. So we'll have another one coming up this week. Should be a lot of fun, Sean. And, it's funny, too. We went to these camps during Heat Week, and it was like, 70 degrees, windy, cloudy. Then all of a sudden, it was just muggy as heck on Friday, especially after it rained. So go figure. It always seems like that Week 0 game, kids are getting cramped up and everything, and all of a sudden, here comes the humidity.
Yeah, you can always count on two things Week 0. That's cramping and a lot of penalties.
Penalties, sure.
That just comes with the territory. Again, you don't have to play a game Week 0, but 17 of the 18 teams in Westmoreland County did. The one who didn't happens to be the defending state champion Bell Vernon area Leopards. But I think there were some pretty significant takeaways from Week 0, even though the games technically don't count in terms of playoff implications. They do go in the win or loss column. And I want to start with Southmoreland because we already talked about a big addition in Da'sjon Craggette. And really, when you look at that team, they were already really good a year ago in terms of they had a quarterback, they had a star receiver, both of whom are coming back. And to get a player like Da'sjon, who had over 1,000 yards at Greensburg Central Catholic, he ends up there because he transfers to Geibel. Geibel has a co-op, and he goes off more than 200 yards in his first game as a member of the Scotties. I truly feel like the offense goes to a higher level now in Southmoreland, I think can make some real noise as a result.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Sean. And I was thinking, preparing for the show, Southmoreland almost has their Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison, and Edgerrin James now, right? With the three that they have, Keefer, and Craggette. They're going to be so hard to stop. That being said, and I know we'll get into this, but their game against McGuffey, they were stopped in the first half, but nobody was stopping them in the second half. As you mentioned, Craggette goes for over 200 yards, but he kind of fell into Tim Bukowski's lap with him transferring from Greensburg Central Catholic to Geibel because of a bus route that no longer existed. And Geibel has the co-op with Southmoreland because they don't have a team. And, Southmoreland welcomed Da'sjon with open arms, and it just gives them another outlet and another element on their offense.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned it was a slow start offensively, but maybe showing the firepower that the Scotties have. They still finished with a 34-7 victory against McGuffey. And so, again, three-headed monster, if you will. I think it's interesting that they really didn't get the passing game going hardly at all against the Highlanders and still scored 34 points. So that bodes well for the future. We're going to hear from Da'sjon a little bit later in this show as he was voted our player of the week. But from one offense that could be very prolific this season to an offense that uncharacteristically really struggled, Penn Trafford shut out at home in their loss against Canon McMillan 14-0. I tried to go back and do some research, which, without getting into too many details, has become a little bit more difficult for us
for everyone
recently. I did not see them. I could not find a shutout more recent than 2012. They were blanked by the Gateway Gators. So we're talking 11 years the last time that they did not score. And this was at home, too. So it's very rare to see Penn Trafford. I think that they'll eventually figure it out. But you have to wonder, maybe this will lack the offensive firepower that we've seen over the past half decade or so.
Yeah, they're breaking in a new quarterback and Johnny Louver. And Sean, you can obviously talk more to this game because you were the play-by-play guy during it. But, you know, when you break in a new quarterback, there are going to be some growing pains. But that being said, to me, it seemed like Penn Trafford, I don't want to say dominated Canon McMillan, but it seemed like they controlled parts of the game where they could have scored a few times. Heck, Derek Carr had an opportunity to score inside the red zone late in the game, and or I guess it was in the third quarter, I believe.
Yep,
actually, yeah.
Quarter.
And he was hit hard, coughed up the football, and that's how Canon McMillan scored their first touchdown. So, you know, PT scores there, might be a different game. And there were other opportunities too. They just kept shooting themselves in the foot. So if you're John Ruane, I'm sure he had some sleepless nights over the weekend. If you're looking at it that way, you're thinking, man, you know, we really had an opportunity. We squandered the game. But you also probably have to think that these are things that we can clean up. And if we do, you know, we're going to get back to that level of Penn Trafford football. So I'm sure it'll be an interesting week, and it has been so far at practice for Penn Trafford, because that's certainly that talent's still there. Hopefully they can clean up some things and Johnny can continue to get his feet wet.
Yeah, and Louver did pass for over 200 yards, so it's not as though he wasn't able to get anything going, but he was intercepted, and there was, I think, several passes that could have been intercepted that weren't, so he was just kind of inconsistent. I'm sure he'll get better. Tasso Whipple, I thought, looked improved from a year ago, so they do have the elements, but ultimately, I think they got in the red zone maybe 4 times. We're doing the Alex Hetrick State Farm Insurance red zone read, and I did it multiple times, couldn't get any points off of it. I do think that the defense looked really good. So there is that silver lining. They allowed just 7 points defensively, and that came in the final 2 minutes on a long run that, you know, the game was sort of already pretty close to over at that point. So maybe they just have to win some lower scoring games this year. But one thing we know, John Ruane's team almost always is better at the end of the season than they are at the beginning of the season. So we'll see if that plays out. I would not write off the offense yet, but there's no doubt that they've got a long way to go to get back to what we normally see from the Warriors.
Well, and again, glass half full, right? You get to the red zone 4 times. If you do that, you're probably going to be successful in the future, right? I mean, you're going to score touchdowns. It just didn't happen on Friday night. And I thought Carmen Metcalf, watching back to some of the game, you know, had a really solid night. He's going to have to be really, really good for PT this year.
Yeah, he made one spectacular grab that got him in the red zone. He had one that was not an easy catch, but I think he probably would have said he could have gotten, that was in the end zone, couldn't make the catch. It was a turnover on downs. And that's how football goes sometimes. That's a really good Canon McMillan team that I think will make some noise in 6A this year as well. The Norwin Knights, I think, would be a surprise team if they have success, along with Penn Trafford and some of the other teams that compete in the 5A Big East Conference. No one's picking the Norwin Knights to do much, but if week 0 is any indication, they might be much improved because they hung with a team that made it to a championship game last year in Upper St. Clair. Now, the Panthers did graduate like 25 players, so they're not the same roster that competed for a WPIAL title. But Norwin looks much improved. Tristan Tavares and Jackson Pons were on the same page. They ultimately came up just shy, 24-21, Upper St. Clair won, but the Knights had a fourth quarter lead. And that, with their new head coach, Mike Brown, certainly looks like signs of progress.
Absolutely. And I was talking with Dave Franzak, who handles the play-by-play for Norwin, and he said it just looked like a change in mentality. You know, you get a little new energy, a little bit of a different voice in there with Mike Brown, and he said the team just looked really hungry and just different from last year. And one of the things that I noticed from the game, Sean, I mean, this program still trying to learn how to win. They were down 14-0 to Upper St. Clair on the road again after experiencing what they did last year and the year before. So very easily they could have kind of put their head down and could have snowballed, and maybe they get mercy rolled or something, but that didn't happen. They scored 3 unanswered touchdowns to go up 21-14 and nearly won the game in the fourth quarter. So I think that says a lot about where they are, and I think that will give the team some confidence. Certainly have a really, really challenging game this week against Penn Hills, but I think that gives them some confidence going forward. And and you look at how that game went late in the game. It was pretty crazy because Upper St. Clair bombs a 41-yard field goal. If they don't get that field goal, maybe we go to overtime. After USC ends up scoring, it was the go-ahead touchdown. If they didn't get the field goal, it would have been the tying touchdown. But on that game-winning drive, when Norman was leading 21-17, the Panthers converted a big 4th down. They converted a couple 3rd downs. And one of the new rules this year came into play as well. Their quarterback on, I think it was 3rd down and goal, he runs a quarterback sneak. He gets into the end zone for the score, but the touchdown got called back because there were players assisting him, pushing him into the end zone. I guess the Philadelphia Eagles rule there.
But the NFL still allows that, I believe. So
they do. Oh, they do. Okay, maybe I know there was talk about disallowing that, but certainly something that became popular. With the Eagles doing it anyway. So there was a penalty for helping him into the end zone, getting behind him and pushing him. So the ball comes back. The next play, they throw a touchdown pass to Upper St. Clair to go ahead and then win the game. But on that drive too, there was a personal foul, a penalty, defenseless receiver call against Jackson Pons. It was crazy at the end of the game that game-winning drive by Upper St. Clair. I guess the reason I bring it up is it just goes to show how difficult it was for the Panthers to win the game. And again, that shows, I think, well on Norwin too, that they didn't just roll over and allow Upper St. Clair to win the game there. They really made them earn it on that drive.
Yeah, and if I saw correctly, I believe Upper St. Clair also used a bit of a trick play early in the game to get a long touchdown on a flea flicker.
Yeah.
That's something that, you want to make sure you don't fall for that again, but it wasn't as though, to your point, USC went out there and just proved play in and play out that they were the better team. They had to get some good breaks and maybe some favors along the way from the Knights. But if Norwin can hang with Upper St. Clair, we'll see how they do this week against Penn Hills. But again, they look like they could be a team who takes a step forward here in 2023. I think that could apply to the Jeanette Jayhawks as well. We remember 2 years ago was that nightmare season when so many players left the program. Roy Hall, it was not a fun send-off for him in his final year. Last year, they made some slight progress. They were more competitive. They did get in the playoffs. I think that they're certainly not all the way back, but I think that they probably take another step this year. They seem resurgent, even though they've got a microscopic roster size, 21 players in uniform for week 0. Now, that could really be concerning if you have some injuries along the way, but they found a way somehow to come back and defeat the Burrell Buccaneers 16-13 and to show how far they've come. That was fairly lopsided in favor of Burrell just a year ago.
Yeah, 31-10 last year. And just like Norwin, Jeanette went down early in this game. Burrell drives right down the field, their opening drive, and they go up 7-0. And again, after the beatdown last year of 31-10, Jeanette mentally could have kind of went the opposite way early in the game, but they were able to answer and then use that second half rally to win it. And I thought a very interesting call by Tom Pallone was to try the field goal after his long snapper muffed the long snap on the extra point in the fourth quarter, the score before. But if you're Coach Pallone, you got to have confidence in your long snapper. That's Gavin Holmeyer, by the way. So yeah, he muffs a point after attempt for the Jayhawks. So the game stays tied at 13-13. They get the ball back thanks to a Noah Sanders fumble recovery, and then you get the field goal to win the game for Jeanette. But give a lot of credit to Gavin, who again missed that snap, but came back and was able to get that good snap on the field goal. And also Jace Powell, who is just a freshman, he was able to seal the game with an interception late. So you'd love to see the young guys contributing, especially freshmen, where they're getting that confidence early in their career and contributing early in their career. But man, that was a really, really impressive win, I thought, because Burrow, obviously, with Devin Beatty, he got his rushing yards for sure. But, you get worried that Burrow would roll up 350 rushing yards or more in that game, and it didn't happen. I thought Jeanette's coaching staff made a nice adjustment in the second half and was able to kind of force the guys to the outside where, their athleticism showed. So really impressive win, I thought, for Jeanette.
And earlier in this segment, you highlighted how we went around to these training camps. And I believe the second day of camp, we went to Jeanette. And when we talked to Coach Pallone, he said, we got this guy out. He's a soccer player, and he came to kick. And we basically said, hey, if you want to get a chance to kick by yourself every single day, come out for the football team. And so they convinced Austin Emery to come play football, even though he's naturally a soccer player. And it pays off. I mean, it was not a long field goal, but for any high school kicker, nothing is a gimme. And he made a clutch field goal. And I guess Coach Pallone said afterwards that he had been telling Emery all week, this game could come down to you and you're going to be the hero. It's exactly how it played out. And let's be honest, there's a lot of teams that don't have a kicker that can make a kick like that.
Especially in single A, Sean. You took the words right out of my mouth, because there's been times in the past where Jeanette hasn't. They've had some good ones, but there's been some times. Clareton, there are a lot of years where
they state title game because they didn't have the ability to kick a field goal.
Exactly. So at that level, especially. So that's a big weapon for the Jayhawks.
Absolutely. And a big win for Jeanette. Again, it's week 0, so you don't read too much into it. We don't know what teams ultimately are going to be good or not so good, but it certainly feels a heck of a lot better to be 1-0 than 0-1 for these teams. That's going to do it for our biggest takeaways. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll run down all the scores across Westmoreland County from week 0. We will also look at the top performers. And a little bit later on, you want to stick around because, of course, we're going to have the always popular plays of the week.
Oh, yeah.
And a couple of great interviews. The first-year head coach, Nick Keefer of Hempfield area, got his first head coaching victory. And Da'sjon Craggette of Southmoreland, who had over 200 yards on the ground. We'll also look ahead to the week 1 games on the ledger. That's all to come as we continue right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Excella Health and Butler Health System are now Independence Health System. Expert care here.
Nothing performs like a Volkswagen, and nobody does Volkswagen like Sendell VW in Greensburg. Taos, Tiguan, Atlas, Jetta, and more. Sendell VW has tons of new inventory on the lot, with more arriving daily. Visit our showroom today or check out our easy-to-use Stop, Shop, and Roll online buying feature. Get your best deal on a great selection of new Volkswagen models at Sendell VW, Route 30 in Greensburg. SendellVW.com. We would love to meet you.
I feel like it's definitely very important, like for high school, because a lot of kids, get peer pressured into drinking and doing drugs. So like doing the events like in a school setting, I feel like definitely like try to prevent kids from like going to like parties and drinking and driving and doing drugs and being peer pressured.
We just want to, talk about the dangers of the substance abuse in our community, and we want to help be a part of stopping that.
And we roll along here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron each and every Wednesday at 7 p.m. here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Sean Meyers and Dan Flickinger. So glad that you could be joining us. As always, we talked about the biggest takeaways from week 0, but let's run down all of the scores. As we mentioned, all but one of the Westmoreland County teams did play real games. Some of the games you can go back and watch on archive. All of our broadcasts are archived. The video broadcast, Hempfield area, a big-time victory against Greensburg-Salem, 45-6 in favor of the Spartans. We're going to hear from their first-year head coach, Nick Keefer, a little bit later in the show. Conversely, a tough loss for Franklin Regional, the Panthers, falling to Thomas Jefferson, 42-7. You can go back and watch that one, as well as Greater Latrobe, 56, Derry area, 14, second consecutive year that the Wildcats have really laid it on the Trojans to kick things off. And the other video broadcast from week 0, Cannon McMillan 14, as we said, Penn Trafford a rare shutout, so the Big Macs claim a 2-score victory. Flick, I know you were on hand for Hempfield area and Greensburg-Salem. Two teams that had to replace a lot, and it certainly seems like at least early on, the Spartans might be a little bit ahead of where the Golden Lions are in terms of replacing some of the key contributors.
Yeah, they are, and you have to remember, too, that Peyton Chismar did not play in the game, Greensburg-Salem starting quarterback, because he was ejected from the regular season finale last year. He won't play this week against Derry. He'll return in week 2.
That's such a weird rule,
Think about
by
that.
the way, that it spans the end of one season into the other, because obviously if he was graduating, then he would never serve it.
Yeah, I don't think he'd miss any college games if he's going that route. So yes, you have to put that into take that into account as well. And certainly, traditionally, Greensburg-Salem has a tough time in that game. Hempfield, a bigger team, bigger classification, all those things. The one thing that certainly I will say, there were some bright spots for Greensburg-Salem in the game. I thought Kai Bruno, despite getting shaken up a little bit in that game, really played well, and so did Julian Stevens. And we're going to be featuring him on Plays of the Week. And what a play that he made, reeling in that catch for Greensburg-Salem's lone touchdown. He's going to be a factor this year, certainly, for Greensburg-Salem. But if you look at it from Hempfield's side of things, they got a chance to get their feet wet with their new head coach, also calling the plays. Nick Keefer is. And there were some impressive individual performances by Hempfield. So, they did what they needed to do. They built some confidence early. I think they're going to have a chance to do that as well against Connellsville this week too, where, they're playing a team that they should beat. And so that should get things rolling early on for Hempfield. But, those rivalry games, Sean, are more than just the game on the field. There were a lot of people there, and week 0, getting everybody back together, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, rivalry game that applies to Greta, Latrobe, and Derry area. And let's just be honest, the programs are in different spots right now. The Wildcats look to be building off of a playoff victory a year ago. Derry area is just trying to snap their skid. So not surprised with that outcome. We'll see what it means down the road, because I do think Greta, Latrobe is going to be a pretty darn good team in 4A. And then speaking of 4A, well, Thomas Jefferson, that's always a good team, whatever classification they're in. They're just going to be, I think, outstanding this year. They returned just about all of their key offensive skill position guys. For Franklin Regional, you kind of just wash this one away. Keep in mind, the Panthers have not played a lot of week 0 games. They have many times done that second scrimmage. So they got some real life action against a really good team. I think that Franklin Regional will be much better in the long run for it, because we saw last year when it comes to conference play, they were outstanding.
They were, and much like Penn Trafford, much like Hempfield, they're breaking in a new quarterback in Chase Lemke. So, Roman Sarnik had a really good year last year. So, he's getting his feet wet, and it's really tough to do that, the first game of the season against Thomas Jefferson. So, he'll continue to get better and better. He's a tough kid, a good athlete. So, he's another Westmoreland County first-year quarterback that, got a big taste of it last week.
Yeah, and the good news for him is that might be one of the toughest, if not the toughest opponent that he faces all season in Thomas Jefferson. Other game that we had the broadcast of, we mentioned it before, Upper St. Clair just narrowly surviving at home, 24-21, knocking off Norwin. You can go back and listen to that one as well. Other Westmoreland County action, this was an all Westmoreland County matchup. Greensburg Central Catholic comes from behind. They had a narrow deficit at the half, but they prevail 37-24 over Mount Pleasant area. So the Centurions win for the second straight year against the Vikings. Jeanette, as we highlighted, scored a victory in thrilling fashion, courtesy of a winning field goal, 16-13 over the Burrell Buccaneers. The Plum Mustangs score victory over Kiski area, 28-18. Carson Heinley did have a really good performance for the Cavaliers. He looks to be a good one at the quarterback position. Southmoreland up and scored a convincing victory over McGuffey, although most of their work did come in the second half, as we said, 34-7. We're going to hear from their star running back a little bit later. This was, I think, an interesting game. Ligonier Valley, 28-14 over Springdale. That's a Springdale team that was winless last year, really struggled in Class 1A. So it looked like it should be pretty lopsided in Ligonier Valley, but the Rams have to replace, about 80% of their key players from a year ago. But the one guy that they don't have to replace is John Jablonowski. What a performance by him. And Roger Beidel when we talked to him at the kickoff show, just raved about the athletic abilities that he thinks can make Jablonowski a special player.
Yeah, how great is it that Coach Beidel can replace Hayden Siraki, as the lead guy with now John Jablonowski again. They win the game by only 2 touchdowns, yet he went for over 200 yards in the game. I mean, that might show that it's his team for sure. He's the guy that's going to drive Ligonier Valley this year, especially until the younger guys can get some more experience and get their feet under them, much like Derry having a lot of younger, players, but good players. So it'll be an interesting season to see how Ligonier does, but they got off on the right foot. And I'll tell you what, that's a heck of a compliment that Roger Beidel gave John Jablonowski right there.
Yeah, especially when you think of some of the guys that he had, like Alec Bloom and Colin Smith, who went on to play Division I football. So good start for Ligonier at 1-0. Unfortunately for the Yaw Cougars, it is 0-1 because they fell to South Allegheny 28-14. So Yaw trying to bounce back after that disappointing start to the campaign. Let's look at the top performers from week 0. And if you're new to Westmoreland on the Gridiron, where have you been the last several years? But we run down the top passer, rusher, and receiver across the entire WPIAL. And then we highlight a handful or so of the top performers from Westmoreland County in those respective categories. We'll begin with a massive passing performance as Quidir Stribling of Sarah Catholic. How about this for a start to the season? 32 of 48 passing, 429 yards. If I'm correct, that came at a loss against North Catholic. So that's a tough way for his season to start in terms of 429 yards and a defeat, but a terrific performance. No one from Westmoreland County was all that close to that, but Tyree Turner of Greensburg Central Catholic, who I think is going to be absolutely unbelievable this year. 14 of 16, 243 yards through the air for him. Tristan Tavares, just a sophomore, but I think big things in his future. 213 yards through the air. He was 12 of 27 thrown. Johnny Louver, we talked about some of his struggles, but he did go for 202 yards passing for Penn Trafford. A very efficient 6 of 9, 125-yard passing performance for John Wetzel of Greater Latrobe. 6 completions, 4 of which went for touchdowns. And on the other side of that contest, Mason Beeman of Derry area threw for 114 yards on 3 of 10 passing. The top rusher from across the WPIAL in week 0 came from the Riverview Raiders and Landon Johnson, 259 yards in leading Riverview to a victory. Not all that far behind him was Da'sjon Craggette of Southmoreland, as he went for 217 yards. I still have to get used to saying of Southmoreland. I want to say of Greensburg Central Catholic, because he did some good things there.
When John Thompson was looking at the box scores Friday night, he was probably shaking his head going, oh, man.
Yeah, absolutely. But Tim Bukowski will gladly take it. He is the top rusher in Westmoreland County. Again, we're going to hear from him in just a little bit. John Jablonowski, we just mentioned him for Ligonier Valley, 208 yards on the ground. Devin Beatty, we said his name just about every week as one of the top rushers a year ago for the Burl Buccaneers. He picks up where he left off, going for 121 yards, as did Peyton Moulter of Jeanette, the quarterback, who can certainly use his legs as well, 121 yards on the ground. And then another quarterback crack, Celeste Carson Heinley of Kiski area, 102 yards on the ground in the Cavaliers setback. The top receiver in all of the WPIAL from this past week, no surprise, it's also a player from Sarah Catholic, as Darion Washington, 13 catches, 193 yards. He was a big part of the 429 yards passing for Quidir Stribling. He is the top receiver in the WPIAL. The top receiver in Westmoreland County is Samir Crosby of Greensburg Central Catholic, 7 catches, 153 yards. He is a special player. And Damari Robinson for Derry area, 114 yards receiving on 3 receptions. That'll do it for the top performers from week 0. We will step aside briefly, but you got to stick around, because when we come back, it is the always popular plays of the week. We will have a packed segment, 6 different plays. Crack the list. So you got to stick around as we continue right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
The Collision Shop by Jason Mignone is your one-stop shop for all things auto body repair. Our experienced technicians and state-of-the-art facilities have you covered on both passenger and heavy-duty vehicle repairs, including scratches, scrapes, and dents, free estimates, body repairs, welding, refinishing, glass replacement, and more. Our all-new alignment and calibration shop has the tooling, equipment, and staffing to ensure top-quality alignment and calibration adjustments for your vehicle. Our friendly office staff is more than happy to assist you through every step of your vehicle's repair process. Visit the Collision Shop by Jason for our complete list of services.
D'Annunzio's Italian Restaurants is open 7 days a week at all 3 of our locations, Jeanette, Monroeville, and Latrobe. We invite you to join us for our specials. Monday, the special is spaghetti. Tuesday, it's raviolis. Wednesday, it's lasagna. And Thursday, it's chicken parmesan or chicken romano. Be sure to try our drink specials and our fabulous desserts. And remember, we also have takeout available at all 3 locations.
And welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron. Make sure you mark on your calendar every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Tune in here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. And we've already run down some of the biggest stories, all the scores from week 0. We're going to have some great interviews upcoming. But now it is, I think, the most popular segment that we have each and every week, and that is plays of the week. We begin with Hempfield area as the Spartans. They were impressive in their season opener, despite almost an entirely new starting lineup this year. One of those new starters was Rogan Catcher, and he accounted for 3 touchdowns in the first half, including a long run late in the half to restore Hempfield's 3-score lead, as called by Jack Ridenauer and Brent Wiggum.
And off to Catcher. Finds a seam. Breaks free. There he goes. Touchdown, Spartans. Third time tonight for Catcher, and that's his longest run of the evening as well, as that hole just completely opened up, and he's not hesitating at all. Saw the hole, bursted through it, right into the end zone. Third touchdown of the night for Rogan Catcher, as he has been the big play guy for these Hempfield Spartans. A great run, about 28 yards out. You can see the fantastic blocking, especially from Brady Ewing, number 2, and Joe Dolinsky. And then Catcher just finds that second gear.
Yeah, you know, Sean, as that game wore on, Hempfield really found its footing, because in the first quarter, it was kind of a slow start for both teams, but suddenly Hempfield really started to control the game, and you saw it right there with the terrific blocking up front. And Catcher, who didn't run for many yards, still ran for 3 touchdowns. So that was a big game by him. So many new names to get used to for Hempfield this season.
Yeah, get used to the name Catcher, though, because there's 3 of them who are going to play key roles.
Well, and you told me during training camp, we went and we were interviewing, and, we had to get some B-roll, as they call it, some footage of all the guys. You said there's 3 catchers, and I'm thinking, is he using, like, another word for a receiver? Like, is he calling a receiver a catcher? You're like, no, there's 3 on the roster. I'm like, you only have 3 receivers? What are you talking about? We finally figured out that there are 3 with the last name Catcher. There you go.
You finally figured it out. I knew all along.
Yeah, that's true. You helped me a lot.
Whatever. We continue plays of the week with Greensburg-Salem, still in the same game because they were on the other side of the lopsided score, but they did receive a highlight reel play from Julian Stevens in the second quarter. He made a stellar catch and then took it to the house to get the Golden Lions on their board with their only touchdown, as called by Jack and Brent.
Pasquale throws, has a man in Stevens, and he's somehow able to catch it. Breaks free. Touchdown, Golden Lions. What an acrobatic play by Julian Stevens.
And that's what they can do to him, move him all around. That time he lined up out wide all by himself. They basically just say, you go, boy, throws it up, makes a catch there. I don't know how he did it either. We were kind of shielded by his back there. Couldn't quite see it as we take a look at the replay there, but just a simple fade route right to the sideline. Stevens fights for the football, able to come up with the catch, and then does the rest with his legs. Easy pitch and catch there. Well, at least the pitch part, but Stevens does the rest, and Salem's on the board.
Yeah, we had that play up on our Twitter, man. What a terrific grab. I thought, even after looking at the replay, that he might have reeled it in with one hand and then brought the other arm over. Either way, on the back of a defensive back. I mean, that's pretty darn difficult. So what a catch by him. And again, he's going to be a force for Greensburg-Salem this year.
Yeah, certainly on both sides of the football because he's outstanding defensively as well. We continue Plays of the Week with Greater Latrobe, and it was a flashback to last year for the Wildcats. Once again, they scored on their first offensive play of the season. This time it's John Wetzel finding Da'sjon Williams as they hooked up to put the Cats in front of Dairy Area en route to their convincing win, as illustrated by John Flickinger and Bob Lisinski.
You know, and getting back to the game, last year, John, first offensive play for Latrobe, Fulton took it to the house, and from that point on, it was downhill. So, and hopefully that doesn't happen tonight.
Fulton is not a Wildcat anymore. He's moved on. He had an outstanding season. It's Brady Perhovic who's a good one. He's back up at Wetzel on first down. Is going to load up and throw down the middle of the field. Da'sjon Williams has it. And Da'sjon Williams with a touchdown. And there you go. First play of the game, Coach. Last year, it was a rushing touchdown. This through the air, 36 yards after the Trojans go for it on 4th and long, and the Wildcats strike first.
Yeah, it's a perfect pass. He put it right on the money, and Da'sjon is a great receiver, John, and no doubt about that. Boy, they come out with a ball of fire here to jump on Dairy early.
The Wildcats certainly have a great supply of skilled position guys this year. That's for sure. And in just another season, more seasoning for Johnny Wetzel. What a terrific throw there. And Da'sjon Williams will also be one of the stars of their offense and defense, as we saw in that game against Dairy.
Yeah, I think big things for Wetzel last year. Mostly a runner early in the season, got more comfortable as the year has gone along, but that throw indicates they have a ton of confidence in him airing it out here in 2023. Well, from Greater Latrobe to the team that they're going to be playing this week, Franklin Regional. It was a rough way to start the season for the Panthers, but much like the past few years, Aiden Hudock provided a highlight. The senior receiver delivered another long touchdown against Thomas Jefferson. It was the lone score for the Panthers, as detailed by his biggest fan, Jonathan Whaley.
In motion again, Perez from far to near. They fake it, they throw it down the sideline. Hudock is open. Catch! Touchdown! 32-yard touchdown catch. Aiden Hudock, Mr. Electricity, 1-on-1. What's that song by the name of that group? Kelly, 1-on-1. You'll come up with the name. Let's look at this touchdown. In motion is Perez, but it's Mr. Hudock matched up 1-on-1 with the corner. Shakes him at the line of scrimmage. Good protection by the offensive line. About 3 steps behind is the defensive back. No contest.
I still don't think Kelly has any idea what in the world Jonathan was talking about there, even though he claims she did. So I don't know how these things pop in his head, but he was trying to come up with some song there. So I don't know. We'll have to have our research team continue to look at that.
Yeah. One thing that we can continue to look at, though, is just a special player for Franklin Regional. And they're going to continue to use him each and every week in a myriad of ways. Just getting the football in his hands because he can make some special things happen, no doubt. We continue Plays of the Week with Norwin. The Knights came up just short of an upset win on the road against Upper St. Clair, but Tristan Tavares established himself as a dynamic quarterback. He showed his playmaking, finding Jake Sinchak for the time score, as noted by Dave Franzak and Brian Brozeski.
2nd down and 9 now for Tavares. Looking left. Fires. Has Sinchak sidesteps one man, gets across 30, gets a block to the 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown Norwin.
Hey, you got to give Tristan credit again, because that's twice that he had a chance to go ahead and run the ball and kept his eyes downfield looking for receivers, put the ball right on the Sinchak, running into the flat, and Sinchak, good open field move, made one person miss, and kid had good speed, but no one was able to go ahead and track him. And one of the things that you like is you see a little bit of fire. Tristan did a nice job with that ball, and then he did a great job celebrating with his teammates at the end. So let's see if we can't keep this momentum rolling.
First of all, we got to welcome in Brian Brozeski. Now, he's done some games for us in the past, so it's not as if he's a stranger to Westmoreland Sports Network. And, of course, we've done many of his games, as well as a Norwin girls basketball coach. But I got to give a shout-out to Coach Tim McCabe. I'm not going to say he's never going to do any games in the future ever again on WSN, but he's taking some time off right now, so I just want to give a massive shout out to him, though. He has just been tremendous, breaking down plays. One of the best color commentators we've ever had, really. So thank you so much to Coach Tim for doing just a marvelous job in, probably a decade of calling Norwin games on WSN. But Tristan Tavares, man, he, again, only a sophomore. I was watching some highlights of the game. He looks pretty comfortable back there, looking downfield, not rushing throws and that kind of thing. So I think he is going to be a very, very good player for Norwin.
And some growing pains last year, as expected, but I think he's going to benefit from all those, game reps that he got in 2022. He, much like Wetzel, who we talked about at Greater Latrobe, I think they take big steps forward here this season. We conclude plays of the week going a little bit off the grid here. It's not a Westmoreland County team, but we had to include it. It's Cannon McMillan, because it came at the expense of Westmoreland County's Penn Trafford. It was a defensive battle in this one. Two great defensive performances by the Warriors and the Big Macs. As a result, the game was scoreless into the third quarter, but fittingly, the first points came via defense as the Big Macs forced a fumble from Derek Carr, and then Jaden Baxter had a scoop and score, giving Cannon McMillan the only points it needed, as called by myself and John Bainford.
It's Carr this time. Wow. And he is smoked, and the ball is out, and it is picked up at about the 7-yard line, and this might be a house call. This is going 93 yards. There's a couple bodies down here. It is a Jaden Baxter fumble recovery touchdown. Players down on both sides, but it looks as though the play will stand. A 93-yard fumble recovery return by Baxter. There was contact here big time. Both of these players are down.
Yeah, what a massive hit there. And I know Derek Carr was shaken up. I hope he's, still healthy, because that was a heck of a hit. But man, I mean, it boils down. Everything that happened in that game boils down to that one play. Penn Trafford scores there, like I mentioned earlier. It's a different game. They did not, and a scoop and score for Cannon McMillan instead.
Yeah, and the Big Macs posting the shutout. Very impressive performance, and certainly that was the biggest play, and that's why it appeared on Plays of the Week. That'll do it for this segment, but we've got a great interview upcoming. I had the absolute pleasure to talk to Nick Keefer, the first-year head coach of the Hempfield area Spartans.
Geez, Sean, why don't you brag about it? I mean, I think my interview was good too.
Sure, I'm not doubting that, but the Keefers and I, and there's many different ones.
25
I'm
of them,
talking about this specific Keefer family, because Nick Keefer's dad, Tim Keefer, and I have known each other for a decade, and he might deny that.
Are we ever going to do a Keefer roundtable? I think we should.
That's
everybody.
That's a great idea. We've got legitimately like 7 different guys who would be part of it. So, I mean, I think that's a great idea. Nonetheless, Nick Keefer, much deserving, the first-year head coach of the Spartans, who secured his first ever head coaching victory. We're going to hear from him as we continue next, right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Hi, Westmoreland sports fans. This is Al Gallardo, financial advisor with Lincoln Investment and longtime Westmoreland County resident. Whether it's a traditional or Roth IRA, 403B or 457 plan, mutual funds, ETFs, stocks, or bonds, I can help you navigate the markets and assist you in achieving all of your goals. Call me at 724-309-8337 or email me at agallardo@lincolninvestment.com and we'll get started together. Good luck to all of the area's athletes and coaches this season.
State Representative Mike Reese was a great advocate for the kids in our community. He felt athletics were a vital tool in raising healthy, happy kids. The Mike Reese Memorial Fund offers grants to local youth athletic organizations so that every kid has a chance to play. Funding is available for new equipment, registration fee offset, facility improvements, and more. Visit MikeReeseMemorialFund.com to apply.
Welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron. Sean Meyers now joined by the first-year head coach of the Hempfield area Spartans, that being Nick Keefer, coming off of his first career head coaching victory against Greensburg-Salem on Friday. First off, Nick, congratulations. I know that had to be awfully special for you after a decade plus as an assistant with the program. When you got that first victory against the rival Greensburg-Salem Golden Lions, what was that emotion like for you?
I'm not sure if I have words to describe everything I was feeling. I was so excited for the kids with all the hard work they've put in. I was so excited for the staff from everything we've been through and trying to implement our strategies and what we want our kids to do. And excited for my family. It was all there, and it was just everything came together. It was just a really, really awesome night for us in the community, and it was a lot of fun.
We had mentioned multiple times that you had been with the program in a myriad of roles for quite a while. To become the head coach, how much has that changed your life? How much do your responsibilities, obviously you have more of them now, but how much does that change everything compared to what you had been doing in those various assistant roles?
I didn't think it was going to change much because I always did. I felt like I contributed a lot, but it is a lot more. Ask my wife. I am away a little bit more than I have been. But it is. I feel like I've always been preparing for this while I was an assistant coach. Once my wife had the twins, I stepped down and was the freshman head football coach. So I kind of saw a little bit of what it was like to run my own program there, just at a smaller level. So it is a little more planning, a little more speaking with the media. That's something that I never had the opportunity to do. But preparation wise, I think I'm preparing just as much as I have in the past.
Whether it be at practice or even, I would assume, on game day, you look to one side, you see your brother, you look to the other side, you see your father. I'm sure that has to be awfully cool as well. And I've known your dad for about a decade now. How much do you enjoy that experience? And how do you also kind of balance the fact that they're family, but they're also your cohorts?
It is really, really exciting. I got the opportunity to coach with my brother my first year out of college at Fraser. I was the middle school head coach and he was the defensive coordinator there. So I'd get to work with him on Fridays. I was up in the booth and I would just help head coach Mike Stieber, but I really never got to go through the daily routines with him of how we want to run a program together. We'd always talk about things each program does, or maybe things we could do differently if we were in charge. And now we get to do that together. And it's really exciting. It's really fun. We'll text each other things that we think we need to do, and the other person was just getting ready to text the other person that, like, we're on the same wavelength. We're always thinking the same, and it's really fun to get to do that with your brother and your best friends. That's neat. And then with my dad with us, all of our coaching philosophies of how to treat kids and how to run a practice and how to make things exciting and how to organize it. He taught us that through our life. We grew up on the sidelines, whether it was at football practice with him or football games with him or in basketball in the gym with him. I think I kept score. I was the scorebook person, official scorer in the city championship when I was in third grade. I've been with him my whole life, and I think it's really exciting for us to get to do this together. And I really am. I'm trying to take time to enjoy it. Life's going really fast right now, but I think he loves being there with us, and we're all excited to get the opportunity here at Hempfield to do that together.
Let's talk about Friday night in particular. It's always special when it's Greensburg, Salem, and Hempfield area. And your team got off to a good start, but it was a spectacular touchdown by Julian Stevens that pulled the Golden Lions within striking distance late in the first half. You got a touchdown with about a minute left before the half and then kind of pulled away in the second half. How did you evaluate the ebbs and flows and how your team was able to kind of seal the outcome in that second half of play?
Yeah, going against a team like Greensburg, we knew they were going to be well prepared. They're well coached. They have how many former head coaches on their staff. Ty's a great offensive mind. Matt Bowe, their defensive coordinator, was going to have their kids prepared. So we knew we were in for a fight. And only having 3 returning starters, that's a lot of kids playing their first varsity game in a full game of the first full game of the season. The speed's a little different. So I was, we were preaching all week that we can't make those first week mistakes. And we had a couple penalties, a couple offsides. I think we had maybe a hold or something. But I was really pleased with how I thought we kept our composure in a rivalry game. I thought we were in shape. I thought, I didn't see us going down with too many cramps, or, we didn't have any 10-man on the field penalty. So I was really pleased with us. Our first game, a lot of kids' first varsity action in general. And so I was really happy with our effort. The kids were focused and locked in the whole time. And I was, overall, it was a great game for us, I felt.
I know you mentioned you don't have many returners. One of them is Kieran Lippman, your quarterback, who's also outstanding defensively. When we talked to him doing our camp previews, he kind of sounded like a veteran and a leader on your team. I'm sure that he plays like one as well. How important is he, whether it be on offense or defense, for making sure that everyone sort of follows his lead?
You can't say how it is. Just like Greensburg was undermanned a little bit. They were out without their starting quarterback. And you just can't, not a price, but you can't put a price on that type of leadership. That there's so much value in like being the man in charge in that huddle. And I think everyone looks to Kieran, everyone trusts him. He's our guy. So I think offensively and defensively, the kids see his leadership on offense, running the ball or making the correct read or taking a chance and pulling it on inside zone and wanting to make a first down. And then when we're on defense, he flips that switch and he's running the alley, going in and he's the first hitter on outside zone stuff. So it's really nice for him to be a senior, be a leader. He has that confidence that he can do it. He is the best player on the field in his eyes, and he's ready to go. So we're really excited about his leadership this year, and I think he's going to hopefully keep getting better every week.
Talking to Nick Keefer, the first-year head coach of the Hempfield area Spartans here. I know that 1-0 is better than 0-1, but you were around last year when the team got off to the great start of 5-0, and it still did not result in the playoffs. So do you have to balance excitement, especially for so many young players, with the fact that winning a game in week 0 or even this upcoming week in non-conference doesn't really mean anything in terms of getting into the postseason?
For sure. I look back at last year's experiences, but I also, I just got a card in the mail from Coach Bob Kalp, who I learned countless lessons from being a part of the softball team. They were returning state champions, and his main focus every day was just to win the day, have the best practice possible, win the day, do those little things. And then the next thing we worry about is just winning the day tomorrow. So we try to preach that. I'm not worried about the playoffs right now. I'm not worried about a letdown after 5-0. I'm just worried about it's Tuesday. It's our offensive day practice for the varsity. I want us to have the best offensive practice we can, get a little bit of special teams in, and then we got to flip the switch and have 20 minutes of solid defense. That's all I'm worried about right now. And I think the kids are starting to buy into that too, that we can't worry about anything else but today, getting better and doing our job. So that's what we've been trying to preach. I'm going to try to stick to that all season. So whatever happens, but we got to take care of the little stuff, and hopefully it leads to the big things happening for us.
Next on the ledger, Connellsville, a team that, quite frankly, has struggled in recent years. Now, they had a very unique approach with the three-coach system, and I know that they're trying to get back to prominence. When you look at them, what do you see from the Falcons, and what do you have to do against them?
I see an improved team. Last year they had some skill, but we were able to get some looks that we wanted, and we were pretty successful on offense and defensively against them. Against Albert Gallatin last week, they had, as Mike Tomlin says, they had a ton of splash plays. They returned a kickoff. They almost returned a punt. They had an 80-yard touchdown run. They had a big touchdown passes. So they are explosive. So if we think we can coast and just go through the motions, they're going to put it to us. So we have to make sure we're reading our keys. Everyone's doing their assignment, and we're playing sound football, because if not, they're going to hit a big play. So that's what we tried to stress yesterday in our defensive practice, and we just got to make sure we understand and read our keys and do our job, and we should be, hopefully we'll be okay.
Lastly, I know we're just one game into this season, but I'm sure you've set goals for this team. What would you consider successful in 2023, your first year at the helm?
Oh man, I can't even think about long term. Obviously you want to make the playoffs, you want to win playoff games, you want to win championships and things like that. Those are our goals, our ultimate goals. But we try not to focus on that. Like I touched on it a little bit earlier here. We just have to get better every day. You have to get better. do your job, focus in, and make sure you're handling your business on a day-to-day basis. That's what we're trying to implement and instill in these kids. Whether it's making sure you get to school on time and you're in every class and you're turning in your homework so you're eligible that week, or you make sure you have to get down, from class and we're in the weight room at 250. You got to make sure you're in the weight room at 250, get your lift in before practice. Those are all the little things we're trying to preach and make routines for us. So that's our main goal is that every week, every day is just to get better every day and win that day.
Well, Nick, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. We appreciate it always. And congrats once again on win number 1. Hopefully the first of many to come in your head coaching career. Thank you, Sean.
I appreciate it. Westmoreland Sports is top-notch professional program. So I appreciate everything you guys do for Westmoreland County.
Absolutely. That is Nick Keefer, the head coach of the Hempfield area Spartans. We'll take a quick break and continue here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Why the 2023 Kia Sportage plug-in hybrid? It's roomy, it's fuel efficient, it's peppy, it comes with so many extra options. And right now at Smale Kia, get $500 off MSRP, plus a level 2 charging cord. So the real question is, why not? Get $500 off MSRP on any new Smale Kia and a level 2 charge cord with all 2023 Kia plug-in hybrids and EV models. And they come with Kia's 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty at Smale Kia.
East Suburban Sports Medicine Center, Western PA's #1 physical therapy practice since 1984, is always offering same-day or next-day appointments for all new patients. With 8 convenient locations and extensive therapy services, ESSMC offers the best care anywhere, hands down. Call 412-856-8060 or visit ESSMC.com to schedule today. ESSMC Physical Therapy. Your health, your decision.
Welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron. We'd like to thank Coach Keefer for taking the time to talk, and a guy who's got a lot of energy. He loves Hempfield area. He's a Bell Vernon grad, but you would think that he is Hempfield from birth because he is just all about the Spartans, and it's really good to see a guy like him get his first victory, although it would have been good on the other side for Ty George as well. Sure. 2 really good guys that we like dealing with, but we appreciate Coach Keefer taking the time, and hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll talk to Coach George as well on this show.
Pretty neat that you have Ty George, who played for Nick when he was an assistant coach at Hempfield, pretty much his entire career there, comes back as the head coach of a rival, if you will, and goes up against them. Pretty neat. Those two talked a lot, at our kickoff show at Manor Valley. I was like, what are you guys doing together? You're supposed to you're not supposed to share anything right now. Not that they were sharing any plays or any secrets or anything, but pretty cool to see those two go at it in the first week of the season.
So that's the first interview here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron in 2023, but our second one's coming up momentarily. It is the star running back for the Southmoreland Scotties, Da'sjon Craggette, and he is the interviewee because, Flick, the people have spoken.
The people have spoken. The first voting player of the week of the season, and indeed, Da'sjon Craggette is the winner. Again, 13 carries, 217 yards, and 2 touchdowns in that victory over McGuffey. But we also want to congratulate our other nominees this week. We talked already about Tristan Tavares, 12 of 27 for 213 yards, 3 touchdowns in that loss to Upper St. Clair for Norwin. Johnny Wetzel as well, another nominee. We mentioned 4 touchdown passes against Derry. Tyree Turner threw for over 200 yards plus 2 touchdowns, added 2 rushing touchdowns. And John Jablanowski from Ligonier Valley, another nominee this week, 21 carries, 208 yards, and those 2 touchdowns against Springdale. So just there, 3 touchdowns, excuse me. So a terrific week for a number of those players. They will be nominated again, I'm sure. And if you'd like to vote on who you think should win Player of the Week, you can do that on our social media pages and on our website. Typically, the voting will begin sometime over the weekend or early in the week, and you'll have a chance to vote 1 time per day.
Absolutely. Get out there and vote. And one thing we have learned over the past 3 or 4 years is the Scotties vote in full force.
Yes, they certainly do. They've done that. Yeah, they did. What year was that? I think the first 3
2019,
weeks
I think,
was a Scotty
breakthrough playoff year.
First 3 weeks. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, we'll see. It could be another breakthrough year here in 2023. We'll hear from one of the key components from their roster as Da'sjon Craggette will join us with an interview upcoming next after a quick break, and then we'll be back to wrap up the show with a look ahead at the Week 1 ledger of games as we continue right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Your next golf adventure awaits at Manor Valley Golf Course in Export. Manor Valley offers 18 scenic holes over gentle sloping fairways and the purest putting surfaces around. Manor Valley Golf Course in Export is the perfect place to host your next golf outing, banquet party, or shower. Manor Valley also offers league play and great membership rates. Tee times available. Call 724-744-4242. Visit ManorValleyGC.com.
And we continue on Westmoreland on the Gridiron with our first Westmoreland Sports Network interview, Player of the Week, and that is with Da'sjon Craggette from the Southmoreland Scotties. Certainly well-deserved. Over 200 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns in a 34-7 victory against the McGuffey Highlanders. I'm used to seeing you in that maroon, Da'sjon, but you look pretty darn good in that red and black as well at Southmoreland. So congratulations on the victory and all your success, and thanks for taking some time out here tonight to join us.
Yeah, of course.
So let's get into it a little bit. What was it like last week to be able to contribute the way that you did in that win against McGuffey, being with a new team?
It honestly felt good. To be honest, it was just, I don't know. I just want to thank my teammates for doing their job. The line, they blocked well. So decided to go out there and do what I did.
Must feel good to make a good first impression, though, right?
Yeah, it feels amazing.
Now, you guys trailed 6-0 at halftime, which is pretty shocking considering you won 34-6. What changed, or what was kind of said, or 7, I should say, not 6, but 7, but what kind of changed at halftime? What was said, and what kind of changed in the second half for you guys to really get rolling offensively?
I guess during halftime when we was in the locker room, we just all realized that we're better than how we was playing, and we just wanted to go there, execute, win the game. Because everyone had their heads down coming up in here. Think we was going to lose.
Was there anything specific, X's and O's wise in the second half that really clicked for you on offense?
Stop with the mistakes. We had a lot of turnovers, so that's something I hope that could for.
Now, you being again with your new team, did you feel any pressure going in to have a big game, or is it just you're going to go in and ball out?
No, I didn't. Actually, didn't have any pressure at all. I was just expected to come out here, play, and just do me.
Can you kind of take us through? You had quite an off season, quite a summer. With everything that went on. Again, you were at Greensburg Central Catholic, had a really good football season and track and field season there. And now you're playing for Southmoreland. When did you kind of find out, that you were going to have to transfer to Guyble and your bus route was no longer going to take you to GCC? When did you kind of find out in the summer that was going to happen?
I found out the beginning of the summer, and I didn't do anything just because I was just waiting to see if it was true, because it was a rumor at first. Then I found out it was true. I talked with the principal and they said they were going to try to get it back, and they sadly couldn't do it. So
yeah, how difficult was it to hear that at the time? I'm sure it was pretty hard to hear.
Yeah, it was very difficult. I wasn't accepting it at first, so that's why it took me so long to transfer, because I was waiting to see they get it back up there.
Yeah, it just didn't happen. But obviously, talking with Coach Tim and, hearing some of your comments, the team welcomed you with open arms at Southmoreland. What was the adjustment like there coming in as kind of the new guy?
It was pretty good. They all just made me feel welcome. That's what made it easier for me.
Your cousin Jarrell also transferred from Greensburg Central Catholic with you. Did it help him, or help you, I should say, having him along with you to kind of get adjusted?
Yeah, it did. It did. because like I ain't really know anyone, and like I couldn't just go. Well, I'm not someone who just gonna go out and just go talk to someone I don't know. Like, I don't do that. So I just sat there talking with him, and everyone just came to me instead of talking to me. So
now you only started in August with the team. How have you been able to kind of pick up the playbook? Was that a challenge for you?
Yeah, it was a little challenge because like last year we had like easy play names. I came down here to like a little difficult. So like, but I'm still picking up on. I don't know all the plays, but I know. So.
Yeah, take the ball and get through the hole and go, I guess. And that's what you did on Friday. Talk about the potential of the offense. I mean, that had to excite you coming in to see guys, you know, like Ty Keffer, Caden Kiefer, and, you know, some of the others that are on the offense. What's the limit for this offense? Is it the sky? Is sky the limit for Southmoreland this year?
The sky's the limit because like we can do everything. Like the run all over a team, we can air it out. It's amazing being there. With that type of offense.
What are some of your goals for yourself and the team this season?
My goal is get another 1,000 yards and hopefully make it to the playoffs and win the playoff game. That's what I want to do.
And I know that was a tough way to go out last year at GCC when you guys had so much momentum and everything going into the playoffs and high hopes. And so I'm sure you'd like to win that playoff game now as a member of the Southmoreland Scotty. So as you look at yourself as a running back, what is your best attribute? What do you do really well, do you think?
I don't know. I'll say my best attribute is speed, but like patience. I feel like I have a good patience to like the blocks develop and stuff.
Now, is that something that you had to learn, you know, as you progressed throughout your high school career? Because I'd imagine that's not easy, you know, waiting for those, you know, holes to open up and not to hit them maybe too quickly.
Yeah. It took a little bit. Last year, I didn't have no patience at all. I just got the ball and just like, now I'm learning more. It's like the game's like slower for me now. So I can just react more. Yeah.
Da'sjon, do you have college plans? Would you like to play football in college? Do you have any idea, if you do, where you'd like to play, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I do want to play football in college. If I could play anywhere, I want to go to Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's the school I want to go to, but hopefully it works out. If it doesn't, whatever.
Hey, you never know, and keep those options going. Keep putting up big numbers, and those offers will roll in for sure. Now, your brother, we have a chance to watch him play almost every week. We cover Seton Hill football here on Westmoreland Sports Network. Chiron, what do you expect from him this year?
Expect a lot. Expect him to go out there, get 1,000 yards, hopefully. Just do anything he can to make it to the next level. I just want to see him do good.
Da'sjon, this was great. Thank you so much. Congratulations, and good luck this week, all right?
All right, thank you.
That is Southmoreland running back Da'sjon Craggette here on Westmoreland Sports Network's Westmoreland on the Gridiron. We'll be back as we preview Week 1 games right after these messages on WSN.
That's the power of Bowser. Yeah.
Coach, building a championship team, I know for you, it's all about the details. The same goes with the Bowsers.
No doubt about it. I mean, it's the tiny little details every single day, not forgetting about it the next day and maybe doing it the following day. I mean, I think details are everything.
As Coach says, get your eyes right on the power of Bowser.
The Bowser family is proud to have Coach Narduzzi as part of our team.
Welcome back, and it's our final segment here of Westmoreland on the Gridiron. Once again, we'd like to thank our guest as Da'sjon Craggette taking the time to join us after his terrific debut for Southmoreland. And let's now look ahead, because week 0, we always say the games don't count because there's no playoff implications. There's not any conference games this week in Westmoreland County, but there's some big games, and maybe these do factor into the playoffs, even though they are non-conference down the road. But if nothing else, I think we've got some more really good local matchups to look forward to. And that begins with a number of different games that we're going to have on video, including Greensburg-Salem at Dairy area. This is one that I know both teams want to bounce back. They both were on the wrong end of fairly lopsided outcomes last week. I think also an opportunity for two coaches to get off the schneid. Yeah, it's only the second game for Ty George, but on the other side, Mike Arone, the head coach of the Trojans after his squad went winless. They have the longest losing streak of any WPIAL team since Brownsville has actually left and become independent. They have a longer losing skid, but they're now out of the district. Two teams desperate for a win, I would say.
Two teams desperate for a win, and when you look at their opponents from last week, Greensburg-Salem going up against Hempfield, again, very, very tough matchup. And the way Latrobe is built this year, certainly a very, very tough matchup for Derry as well. So I think both teams, both coaches, they're going into this game not only wanting a win, but thinking that one certainly is attainable. We'll see how it all plays out.
Another game that we'll have on video. It's going to be a stiff test for the Norwin Knights. They're at home, but they welcome the Penn Hills Indians coming off of a very impressive victory against 6A Seneca Valley. Penn Hills somehow, some way missed the playoffs last year, but they've got a load of talent, including a future quarterback for the University of Pittsburgh and Julian Duggar. So the Knights will have their hands full, but through 2 weeks of this season, they will certainly be battle tested. You can watch that one. You can also check out Mount Pleasant area at Yawk. I'll have the call of that one on Cougar Mountain. And I will say Ben Hoffer is all sorts of fired up. He said they're bringing out the all orange uniforms. Cougar Mountain's going to be bumping for their home opener. And it's a good little rivalry matchup against the Vikings as well. I'm looking forward to this one, Flick.
Yeah, no doubt. And I love Benny. When we were broadcasting Yawk baseball a few times this year, he does the PA announcing. And I think every time I was there, he's like, week one, you guys coming out to do our game against Mount Pleasant. You have to come out. And so I was like, let's do it, man. That should be fun. Two Westmoreland County teams, and pumped up about the sharp unis for Yawk.
Absolutely. Well, you should be pumped up about another Westmoreland County matchup. It was a terrific one last year. Franklin Regional at Greater Latrobe, a game that required overtime for the Wildcats to prevail in 2022. Greater Latrobe trying to keep up their momentum. Franklin Regional trying to get some back after they lost to Thomas Jefferson. And then another game that I think has become a little bit of a rivalry as the Jeanette Jayhawks hit the road to play East Allegheny. Can Jeanette keep it up? We mentioned they've got a small roster, but they've got a good one. And Coach Pallone continues to say, well, we don't have a lot of guys, but the guys we have, they are the right ones for this team and for this program. Penn Trafford at McKeesport. That was a great game last year that the Tigers won. They lost a lot, including Bobby Boyd. So we'll see if they're still the same caliber of team. But for Penn Trafford to go on the road, that will not be an easy one. Hempfield area looking to go to 2-0. They will play at Connellsville. That's a good little matchup for the Spartans to try to continue their winning ways. It's not a very favorable matchup for Kiski area, however. They have to play at Pine Richland, the defending WPIAL and state champion Rams, who are 0-1. They played a powerhouse team from Ohio. So Pine Richland looking for a get-right game on Friday night. How about another Westmoreland County battle, Southmoreland at Ligonier Valley? I really like this matchup. I think that we're going to see some great individual performances and look no further than a spectacular running back matchup between Craggette and Jablonowski.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. If College Game Day was there, they'd be showing the graphics of those two guys head-to-head, Jablonowski and Craggette. That should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to kind of seeing the box score and seeing the final score in that one.
Yeah, both running backs, they went over 200 yards apiece in week 0. Well, how about the season debut for the state champions in 3A? It's the Bell Vernon area Leopards, the only team that did not play week 0 in Westmoreland County. They will play at Laurel Highlands. No, Rodney Gallagher's not still there, so it's not the Quint Martin versus Rodney Gallagher matchup, but they have a future D1 player in Antoine Black. He's a good one. And for the Leopards, it's pick up where you left off. They've got a terrifically talented and experienced roster. They bring back the vast majority of that team that won WPIAL and for the first time ever state gold a year ago. Very excited to see that.
Yeah, and we had a chance, again, Sean, to visit their training camp, and the vibe there is just different. It really is. The tempo, and you can do that when you have an experienced team. So many players returning, including, obviously, Quentin Martin, but your starting quarterback and Braden Locks coming back as well. So, when these guys have been in the system for a number of years, you're not installing as much. You're just going out and playing or practicing and working on fine tuning some things. So you can have an up-tempo practice. Now, that being said, Matt Humbert, he's crazy. So he's always going to be up-tempo in practice. We loved it though, man. We always enjoyed going there, and that was a lot of fun. So we'll see how Bell Vernon can kind of follow that up. I have a feeling they're going to make another deep run this year.
And Humbert's a Laurel Highlands guy, right?
He is, yeah. So
that's going to be a nice little trip for him. I'm sure that's going to be very secondary for him. He's not going to be focusing on that, but certainly you would think that at least in the back of his mind, he'll have some flashback memories. Apollo Ridge at Valley also on Friday night, as is Burrow at Deer Lake. Some good AK Valley matchups there. This one could be a good one. It was last year. Bishop Canevin at Greensburg Central Catholic. The Crusaders are loaded once again. They've got a WVU commit. GCC lost a lot of those players from a year ago, guys like Amari Mack and, as we mentioned, Craggette, who has since transferred. But they do have a dynamic duo in Tyree Turner and Samir Crosby. You saw firsthand that matchup last year. Crosby immediately established himself as a special player when they played at Bishop Canevin.
That's when I think he really came onto the scene. And it was still obviously very early in the season, but especially to me. And it wasn't that he did make some outstanding plays, but just watching him on a play-by-play basis, you could tell that he was a standout. He was special. And hey, how about a former host of this show, Sean Benjamin, is the offensive coordinator at Bishop Canevin. So
yeah.
We'll be welcoming him to Greensburg.
I mean, that is a legitimate state title contending team.
Yes, it absolutely 100% is. He's very excited about it, very excited to get going because Bishop Canevin did not play in week 0. So he's looking forward. He was already asking me questions about Central, and I haven't seen them. So I couldn't really help him very much.
Yeah, that should be a good one in Greensburg. Other high school game, Monessen at Cornell. And then the good news for us is it's a busy weekend because not only do we have all the games Friday, we actually kick things off tomorrow as Seton Hill plays at Wheeling. Second consecutive year that they've opened at Wheeling on a Thursday.
Another Craggette, we'll see.
Yeah. Chiron is a terrific running back for the Griffins, and this is becoming a nice little matchup. So we're excited to bring that one on video as well. Dan Day, a good friend of ours here at the Westmoreland Sports Network. He really thinks maybe talent-wise they're not quite the best team that they've had, but he thinks mindset and mentality wise, maybe they will be. So let's see. You got to get things started right against Wheeling. So an opportunity to get a little payback for the Griffins here to kick off 2023. And then a couple days later, or maybe more traditional Saturday 1 o'clock kickoff, St. Vincent opens its season playing at home, hosting Washington and Jefferson. And John Bainbridge, who's going to be my color analyst on Friday, will be on the sidelines there for the Bearcats.
Yeah, good luck to him. Great guy. And also Aaron Smetanka, who's done a really nice job at St. Vincent.
You're only saying that because he's your neighbor.
I know. He can probably hear me talking.
All right. Well, we only got a couple minutes left. Flick, anything that you want to mention for those people maybe unfamiliar or new to Westmoreland sports?
Yeah, just, first of all, we have everything available, not only live, but archived. So there's many people that go to the games, and that's great, and cheer on their sons or different sports, their daughters, what have you. And they have an opportunity then to watch the game back. And we've heard from many people over the years that will go to the games and then, sit with their sons and daughters later on that weekend or in the week and kind of watch back to our broadcast. And we really, really do appreciate that. We just want to let everybody know that option is available, as all the broadcasts are available on demand. We'll have 5 games coming up live for you this week. And we just want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. And also all the sponsors, folks, that you see, all the businesses, the local businesses that have, been able to sponsor these high school games that we do. Please do keep that in mind, that they just want to be a part of the community. They want to be able to support the communities and the student athletes and our broadcast of that. So keep that in mind as you're watching the games, and get the popcorn ready. Should be a great slate of high school football games.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. It should be a terrific weekend here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Also, check out the website, westmorelandsports.com. Not just Friday nights, every single day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year. That'll do it for the inaugural edition of Westmoreland on the Gridiron in 2023. We'll catch you next week. Of course, Wednesday at 7. Thank Nick Keefer and Da'sjon Craggette as well for joining us. For my partner, Dan Flickinger, Sean Meyers signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next week right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.
Enjoy the games, everybody. Good night.